Hi everyone. Sometime around last week, I went to university, and before my talk, it was a sharing session about entrepreneurship. I had a list of questions, and one really caught my attention. So I thought that I'll make a video about it. Maybe a lot of people are also wondering the same. So the question was like, should I work in a startup or should I work in a corporate? The answer is there's no right or wrong answer. I'm sorry to be this vague, but it's true. It's really about your personality and basically what you want to learn and how do you want to learn from. So I could certainly share about the different levels of startups that I had joined. Some people confused by saying like, yeah, if you work for someone else, if you choose to be an employee, that's kind of like going the corporate route, and doing a startup is like only starting your own business. That's not necessarily true, and actually you could like, kind of be a hybrid, more of myself. I have some social ventures that I run that we're having a business model that we do, and then at the same time we do have our full-time job working. And I know like me and my partners, we're all like really innovative entrepreneurial people as well, so you can do a little bit of both. So when I first started, I started as a solo project, making a business happen. What I learned the most from this type of entity is that you really need to learn how to motivate yourself day in, day out, do a lot of independent learning, choose a good competitor that you could model after so that you could like iterate what they do at a faster scale, lesser the cost of any mistakes. And then after that, try to scale up your team, because actually to succeed in today's world, there's no such thing as doing it alone. I know that people want to chase after the profit margins by doing it alone, but actually it will affect the quality of your service and the relationships that you're trying to build with other people. So I did a little bit of that for around 2 to 3 years. And then I started working in a team of three or four. This team, although it's three or four, but the business size was so big. It was dealing with big corporates like banks, universities, construction companies. And I was so impressed by the business model. But most of all, what I learned is that although you're short of people, if you're efficient enough, you could always contract, like less important tasks to reliable partners, and you just focus on capturing the market, which is more, I would say, on branding and sales. So if you work in a small team focusing on a big market, it is a lot and a lot about sales and a lot about branding as well. After that, I was working in a tech startup. At first, we started with me and just the co-founder, and then we grew the team to I think 13 or 15 people. And as the team grows bigger, it's so interesting because you can carry a lot of roles, putting on different types of thinking hats. You could, end up kind of like doing everything. And I think in this kind of a startup, what pulls people together is a singular vision and a belief in the cause. So your role is basically not so much to manage like, how good the product is in the beginning, because every startup when you first start is going to be crappy, right? And then as you make it better, what you need to motivate and make sure that things are in place are really the people. So just get rid of petty politics, make sure everyone is united working towards the same cause. And I think in this type of like tech driven startup, you will definitely learn a lot about how to manage data, how to analyze and optimize things. So day in, day out, learn to optimize. You will find like really funny way of trying to get marketing in organically, because when you're a small team, there's not much budget. And so, you'll be the one sourcing out, you'll be the one managing the accounts, you'll be the one trying to make everything happen. But you will grow into so much a good person who had an overall like eagle's point of view of doing things. And if your team are very strong, is very strong, you basically learn a lot from each other. So I think it was one of the best experience that I had, starting from like zero to growing something together with a very loyal, productive and talented team. This is kind of like the ideal team that I would want to work with again, if given the opportunity in the future. And I believe like some of us, we already started working with each other, but maybe in different manners, not naturally just like full-time employment. So another startup is like, fully established. The branding is already out there. And they don't really need the sales revenue as much, but it is more of how can you expand the market, right? So in this type of startup, I think that what you can learn is basically really being a specialist in one or two areas. And when you are a specialist in one or two areas, maybe you already have a certain structure that you have to follow by. There's some branding guidelines that you need to follow. It's not as fluid as early stage startups. And then I think the current one that I'm in right now is basically is in growth stage. It's very mature in other markets, relatively new in Malaysian market. This is very interesting because I think you will slowly see that things like from not being too structured. It means that if you have ideas, it could still happen within like a certain aspect of boundary. Um, and then you can work like between teams, so you can exchange thoughts. It's not as rigid, and everything is pretty fluid. It's easy to transfer information, get things to be done in a faster way, and etc. I think that you would also experience the process of seeing something that is super not structured, a bit chaotic, but then it slowly it will be formed into like processes and structures, and then you're trying to see which one has the best optimization and which one is most productive. So basically there you go. There's like different types of startups, and it's really up to you which one fits you best and what kind of character are you. Some people really want to learn from something that's already established, but you don't want to work with an MNC. Then work with a mature startup, where you don't have to think too much, you don't have a lot of drama, back and forth. But if you want to get your adrenaline running, then yeah, I mean, go with like a early stage or basically a new market type of startup. Yeah, that's all that I have to share. I wish you the best for those looking out there trying to see what fits you best.